I am Pops, and yes, we'll talk Loki, the good, the Brad, and the very, very frustrating indeed. This show, better than season one, not the worst thing ever, and that actually makes it worse because you can see elements that do work along the way. But massive, massive slow start and stop, slow down, speed up, do something. All right, contradicted. So we get our little bit of our flashback and we get things, and it's funny how much they will just make you see things that you're like, I just don't care. And they cut to this, flashback sequence. So we're gonna just go on one of the little travels. They're looking for one of these agents that's gone rogue. And what was weird is they speak about this guy as though we're supposed to know who he is. So this guy in the middle is the guy, and his name is Brad. And the Brad is supposed to be tied to Zaniac. So Zaniac is Brad Wolf, and he's this creature. It's this being, and in here he's like a movie star. He's in this universe where that's who he is, and they're gonna go get him. I don't remember him as an agent. I could care less about who he is, and it's so odd to see them just so lackadaisical about tracking this guy down. There's never a sense of urgency. It's always just so slow. Well, let's get a drink. Let's just talk a little bit. Now, in this world where they are, notice Loki has no restraining bolts on or anything like that. Um, so he has his powers, right? So we get our first little glimpse of powers because um, Zaniac gets surrounded, and it turns out that it's actually Loki doing some tricks. And then we get to the scene here, which, to be honest, it's possibly the best Loki scene to date, and yet they fall short of going all the way. Like, so they cornered him, and you see the horns form. You see Loki become Loki. And he uses his magic. The shadows are going to hold Brad in place, and this is all built up with a little bit of edge, a little bit of real Loki in there, and then it just stops, and we don't do it anymore, and we cut to the TVA where Brad's a prisoner, and I kid you not, it never gets as interesting as that again. So that's at like around the 750 mark. This interrogation of Brad, they go somewhere else and they talk about it, they research, they go to him and they talk about it, and they have this long spiel. Oh, this long spiel is terrible. And the worst thing is, what I think they're doing is they use Brad to lecture the audience about how they're supposed to feel about Loki. So again, this is Loki after the Avengers 2012 movie, The Attack on New York. He was plucked from there. And in season one, he sees a montage video and he hears the stories and whatever. So the entire story arc journey that he took over multiple movies and multiple years took place just in that one season. We're supposed to believe it did. To me, it didn't work at all. And Brad is lecturing him about how he's always a loser. He's on the losing side. He's a villain and blah, 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 blah. And the irony is, Brad is not wrong. It's just all dumb. Because this Loki, who now has his powers, is still wandering around in his UPS brown suit and tie instead of his green outfit. Doesn't really use magic like Loki should use. He's never menacing. He's nearly never mischievous, even. He's actually not clever or smart, really. He's just there. So they play this up with this big long talky thing, and they cut, and they go back out, and they go back in later after having some pie. Oh, the pie. You guys think I'm exaggerating. It was 10 minutes. This Brad sequence is 10 minutes before we get to the pie. The pie scene was unbearable. I can't tell you. I think I paused and then I had to start it again and pause again, because every time I read many of these modern comic books, especially the ones I was told were bad, and I was like, they're not that bad. And I go to read them, I'm like, yeah, they spend 5 pages where they're sitting around talking with food in a restaurant. And I'm like, I remember this happening in season 1, but not as bad as this scene. It is so cringy and uncomfortable. Loki is like apologetic or kind of like mocking about the attack in New York. Like, well, remember that thing? It was kind of funny. I did that thing when I was the villain. Remember when I was the villain? I'm like, what is happening? I don't understand what the creators of the show or this. Well, never mind. First off, let me say they don't give an F. They don't care. I'm giving this way more thought and analysis than I believe they did. But I can't imagine a show where you don't have anything defined. Like, what is Loki? Like, who is he going to be? What are his characteristics? What are the different? I don't think they know or care. They just keep doing things. As long as they keep doing things, you can have Easter eggs and gotcha moments and whatever, and that's what people will talk about and will trend on Twitter. There's no character at all. Which, by the way, he does eventually take a bite of pie, but it's long before he actually takes a bite of pie. But this scene just keeps going as well. It's another few minutes before we cut to OB, and then we cut back to Brad. Kid you not, we have to cut back to Brad. So again, 10 minutes of Brad, a couple minutes of pie, little transitionary scene, and then back to Brad. And in this sequence in Brad, Loki's trying to play good cop, bad cop nonsense. And he has this like machine thing. Like he pretends to have this machine. He doesn't really know exactly how to use the device. It puts him in a cube and it keeps like going to crush him. Because Brad never talks, right? Brad's not going to talk about where's Sylvie and why were you knowing anything about her. It's all about finding Sylvie. Last episode was all about time slipping. Now it's all about where's Sylvie. Again, I kid you not. This scene just keeps going and going and going and going before they finally cave. And then we cut back to other people. We have to have a transitionary scene before we end up, because I just don't care. And we go to McDonald's. This was so on the nose bad, I didn't even know what to say. I really was like, what is happening? A 1970s McDonald's commercial is just in the middle of our Loki show. And not like once. The 1980s. Okay, my bad. They're going to go in here and they're going to find Sylvie, who works at McDonald's. She looks like she doesn't have a shower. She has this horrible hairstyle and this horrible conversation with Loki, which begins with, I know I'm the last person you want to see. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I binged watched season 1 again. What is it about? Because you kissed him and kicked him through the magic door and killed Kang, that's why you wouldn't want to see him again? Like, I don't understand any of this relationships. It doesn't make any sense. He's like simping for her, and she's like uber McDonald's witch girl. Like, it makes no sense, and it just keeps going. So we go outside and we sit on the truck, and look how off-putting and ugly they have her. And I'm sorry, she's not an unattractive lady, but they have her just like dumbed down, like dirty trailer park working McDonald's girl. It is so off-putting. Which, by the way, they all this McDonald's stuff, but they didn't bother having a McDonald's logo on the cup. It's just kind of distracting. Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, I was wrong. Okay. And because they're TVA people, they think McDonald's food is good, which was kind of awkward and funny, and not funny because it just kept going. Well, then finally she uses her powers to find out what he's talking about, and they realize that other boss girl. All right, I gotta find her. Where'd she go? Come on, lady. Where are you? All right. Well, they know that the other boss lady is setting off bombs, destroying timelines. And Lady Loki and Loki show up together. They hold hands for like the green mist bomb, by the way. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second because I need to go back. I know this is like weird because no, that was her. So they have this scene where everyone's supposed to be all emotional. Like, oh, they're blowing up these timelines. All these millions of people. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. what am I not understanding? Because before, in the sacred timeline, the premise of Loki season 1 was it was revealed that anytime someone exerted a certain amount of free will and it would create a branch, they would go there and they would destroy that branch. So isn't that the same thing as what they're so upset about now? Like, why is that? To me, it's only different because free will has been unleashed, so there's just multiples of it. Like, why wouldn't they want them destroyed? Like, the whole point was there to be one line, but now there's a whole bunch of lines, and it's a problem. I thought in the last episode they had to reduce the number of lines so the machine could handle, because there were so many, because of free will, they were creating so many timelines. The machine and their infrastructure couldn't handle it. That's why OB is there with this machine and whatever that nonsense is. None of this worked. I just can't get it. We're not supposed to think about it, but we're supposed to have this emotional reaction to the scene, and the destruction of all of these different things. See, that was her. Sorry, let me go back. Yeah, that's her emotional. Oh my gosh, so many people. Oh. So again, Lady Loki's in charge. She's the boss. With her, give her like an ugly mullet, and she still looks terrible. And it's sort of like doesn't really resolve anything, and she ends up back in her McDonald's timeline, just hanging out. And then it's like this weird. I don't understand the conversation with this kid. It's like, hey, you got your ride coming? Yeah. Okay. Well, why are we having this scene? Like, they don't do anything for purpose. They just do things. Like, there's no point to this scene. She can eat her sandwich. She can just talk to herself. What are we having this scene for? Anyway, that's the episode. There is no credit scene or anything like that. That's pretty much just it. I'm having a hard time caring. Like, I know I do this video. It's like a Tuesday. It came out last week, and I'm like, whatever. I know there's nothing going to happen. Like, I know that in 6 episodes, there'll be an hour and a half of story. It may even be crappy story, but at least there'll be like it's like a movie drug out over the course of 4 days. And it's all this time. Like, why did I need 10 minutes of Brad time broken up with a cutscene, a talk over pie before we had more Brad? And Loki still really isn't doing anything. He kind of is threatening, but he's not really Loki. This is the dude that just plucked an eye out of someone's head to get into a building in Avengers and the invasion on New York. And now suddenly he's not going to do anything to poor Brad to get his information. I'm like, screw Brad, cut a finger off or something. Like, give him some sort of like mental Loki torture. Give him an alligator Loki. I don't know. Give him something. All these people suck. They just stink. So anyway, that's my take on it. I'm sure you guys have a lot to say, or not, or maybe I just watched it so you didn't have to. Either way, thanks for being here. Take care, everybody.
Yeah. Right?